Um, I just have,
Recording has started.
yeah, so yes. So Miss Joan is not here this evening, so I will be doing the honors, and I will just say, as she would have us do, we have to say a prayer before we start. So I say a little prayer, and so let us get ourselves in readiness for this prayer. And it goes, Almighty God, thank you for your grace and your promise that when two or three are gathered together in your name, our requests will be granted. Fulfill our desires and prayers, and make all things work together for our good. Increase our knowledge of your truth and our experience of your love. You are able to keep us from stumbling and to present us blameless before the presence of your glory with great joy. To you, our God, be glory, majesty, dominion, and authority, now and forever. And we ask these through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
So again, as I say, welcome everyone. And Miss Claude is not here this evening, so I will be the chair, the acting chair for this meeting. So I want to welcome everyone and board members, members of our committee, which is the Library and Cultural Affairs Committee. And as you know, and I say to Mr. Maynard, I say to you that you don't have to be a member of the board to be a member of this committee or any committee, I think. So I know you have said that you would be interested in being a member of this committee. And so you're welcome to participate in that. So welcome everyone. And is there Miss I can't pronounce her name. It's X Mora James. Is she on the line? She had also said that she would be interested in joining this committee. So she's not here yet. So so this evening we're going to have a very short meeting this evening, I think, and because I don't know if some people are late, so they might be on their way. It's a long way to travel, as you know.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, but this evening, we're going to be having some pleasantries, because whenever they talk about money, I get excited. And that is maybe because I don't have any money. you know so but I don't know, each time I hear someone talk about money and tell you how to get some money or whatever, I don't know, for some reason I get excited. So because I think one day I'm going to be having a lot of money. I don't know. Okay. So anyway, Miss Marlene, I see you're on. And Dr. Burke, I know he's on, but he's not answering. So
Was yeah, he's still
Dr.
on.
Burke,
Yes,
this is
ma'am.
this is Miss Sadie. Why
No,
don't
I
you
know
say
Miss
hello
Sadie.
to me?
No, I know. I'm just, well, you guys were just talking, so I was just, sometimes it's best to be quiet.
Oh, oh, you didn't want to interrupt me.
There
Okay.
you go.
All right. Well, I thank you for joining. So, okay, so we have a few people. So, as I was saying, I welcome everyone. The chairman is here. So so that's really a very good thing, so I feel good about that. So as I was saying before our meeting this evening, this committee, we always have something exciting and something to present. So this evening we're going to have our very own to present to us. And it's Mr. Theodore James. I do not have a bio on you, but what I'd say, you can introduce yourself, because what I would say that he's going to give us the TED Talk on financial literacy. You didn't know I
I
was a
like that.
comedian too, you know? So I'm part-time comedian. Okay. So you're going to give us a TED Talk on financial literacy and the expertise. So Mr. Ted, take it away.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, Sadie. I do look at a lot of TED Talks on the TV, but I never
Okay.
really thought of myself as presenting a TED Talk.
Well,
And that one is good. So my name is Ted, and I'm happy to be presenting this TED Talk tonight. And so I've been on attending these meetings for some time now. Of course, I'm on the community board, and I always enjoy coming to this particular committee's meeting because they always have very interesting stuff. I think it was last month we had, I don't remember her name, but we had Dr.
Dr.
What was her name,
Keys,
Sadie?
Keys, Keis. Dr.
Yes,
Keys.
Keys. She did a financial presentation, and some time ago we had another. I think it was an attorney who did another presentation. I believe
Yes.
Alfredo might have done something here as well. So it's always very exciting and very interesting um, when we get all these presenters. And so tonight I am going to be I'm basically a financial professional. I work with Guardian Life Insurance, and I do
Mm-hmm.
other things along with that. But I'll be speaking to you tonight mainly about credit, identity theft, and insurance. So those three things I'm going to cover, um, and I'm going to try and make it give you as much details as possible. At the same time, I want to get through it as quick as possible.
Okay.
So I call this presentation tonight all about credit. And you may ask, why do I need credit? Well, if we live in this country and if we live in in many other countries, we will soon realize that we can't really do much without having credit. And so, if you want to make any type of large purchase, whether it be a house, a car, um, appliances, they always ask for your credit. And you say, well, what is credit? Well, credit in this country, credit is measured um, by numbers. And so you might say, well, I don't really need credit. I have cash. But let me give you a personal story. Many years ago, I wanted to rent a car. And I went to the car rental place, cash in hand. And they told me I need a deposit. And when I pull out my money and try to give him the deposit, he said, we don't take cash. And I said, what do you mean you don't take cash? So we don't take cash. We don't want to be responsible for your cash. And at that time, I didn't have a credit card with me. And sure enough, I could not rent the car because they will not take my cash, even though I had enough cash to put down on the deposit to pay for the rental. I could not rent the car. So even though sometimes we might want to use cash, and of course, cash is good, cash is king, as we would say, there's sometimes when depending on the business or the nature of the business, we just can't use credit. I'm sure none of us would walk to a bank and say, "Well, I want to purchase this house for $450,000 and hand them $450,000 cash." Right? Say you say you want to have money one of these days. So that might be something that you might want to do, but for most of us, we can't do that. So again, we have to take out the loan, we have to take out a mortgage, and all of that is part of credit. Um, so basically, you say, well, how do I get credit? And some of this, of course, I know a lot of you might already know, but I don't know exactly who it's on. Some of it is elementary, some is we're going to go a little bit deeper, but I just want to make sure I cover all the bases. So generally, in order to get credit, you first need to have a U.S. Social Security number. You need to have a proof of your address, which most of the time you can use a utility bill or um, a rent statement. or if you have a mortgage, and also you would also need a government issued ID, such as a driver's license or non-driver's ID. So basically, there are different types of credit, and we look at secure credit. Now, my very first credit card was a secured credit card because I had no credit. The banks would not give me a credit card. And so, in order for me to start building credit and establish credit, I had to open up what we call a secured credit. What that is I had to deposit a certain amount of funds to the bank. I believe this was like almost 30 years ago. And they in turn would issue me a credit card in the same amount as what I deposit. So I think it was at that time maybe $200. I got a credit, I think it was an American Express card for $200. And then I was able to use that card to make small purchases, but at the same time, it allowed me to establish credit, and I start building my credit from there. Then there, of course, there are other types of cards, such as a store card. You might have seen the Target red card or the Macy's store card. These are store cards, which means you can only use them in most cases only at the issuer. So um, whatever company issues a card, whether it be Target or Macy's, or I have, for instance, a Dell card, I can only use that at those merchants. So I can't take my Macy's card unless it has, like Macy's is doing now, they have a dual card, which is you can use it at Macy's, and it also has an American Express logo on there, so you can use it like as a regular credit card. Also, you have well, there are four major credit cards, I should say, which are Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express. And then along other types of credit, you have things such as personal loans, and you have also lines of credit. Now, a line of credit is sometimes something you would establish at a bank. It's an open line, meaning if you want to go and purchase something, as long as you have that line of credit, you can use it. The bank would sometimes issue you an account or a card if it's online where you can use it. If you don't use it, you don't owe anything, and you don't have to pay anything. It's just there available to you. But if you want to use it, of course, once you do, then you have to repay it. Now, there are basically three major credit companies, and these are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And these companies are the ones that track your credit. So every time you make a purchase on credit, it goes to one of these companies. Not all of them receive your credit, but generally most of them do. So sometimes you'll find if you have your credit report, which we'll talk about a little later, you'll find that there might be some things missing from one or two of them, but generally, for the most part, they all have your most of the major purchases and most of your credit history. And then there are other companies such as Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, and Wallet Hub. Um, these are different types of companies that you can get your credit score, and all three of these that I mentioned. And of course, there are others, but these three, I certainly recommend them. And you can get from all of them your credit score, and it's free. With the first three that I mentioned, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, in order to get your credit score, you generally have to either sign up for a free trial, and then, of course, after the trial, in order to continue, you'll have to pay either monthly or yearly or semi-annually. Um, but the other three, Wallet Hub, Credit Karma, and Credit Sesame, these are free. They're also add-on services that you can purchase, but in order to get your basic score, they're free. Now, These scores are not exactly the same as what you would get from the major credit bureaus, but in most cases, they are very similar. And they're really coming from the credit bureaus, but there's the way how it's calculated, sometimes it's slightly different than what you get from the major credit bureaus. Now, I've been talking about score. So what basically is your credit score? Well, the credit score is a number that is anywhere from, it's called a FICO score, FICO score. And your score could range anywhere from 300 up to 850. The lower the number is, the worse your score is. The higher the number, the better your score. If you have a score in the region of 670 to 739, that's considered a good score. Over 79, you're looking at a very good score. Over, I'm sorry, 739, that's a very good score. And if you're over 785, that's an excellent score. So, it's most people want to strive to get up into the high 700s, and if possible, even the 800s. I've known a couple of people with their scores up in the 800 range. I'm not there yet, but I'm pretty close to there right now because of some stuff that I did, and I'll talk to you about some more. Now, then you would ask, well, what affects my score? What if I have a low score and I want to raise my score? Well, there are a number of things that would affect your score, and these would include such things such as number one, how many accounts that you have, how many, for instance, credit card accounts, how many loans, it could be car loans, personal loans, um, how many, basically anything, how many things you purchase on credit. It could be your car, it could be your furniture, whatever it is that you purchase on credit, it's considered an account. And it's with sometimes a major bank or major financial institution. So those accounts generally stay on your credit report forever. Um, if they're paid in good standing, it's really a plus. It's not a good thing to remove them. You can actually delete them, but it's not a good thing to delete them because your credit history, the longer it is, the better it works for you. And then, as I just said, your credit, the other thing is the payment history. And your payment history, most the credit bureaus, they look at this as whether you're 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late, or 120 days late. And so you get different, you're rated based upon how many days you are late. Of course, my encouragement would be never to be late. And the other thing I would say on that, if you have, for instance, a credit card or any other bill that you're paying and you're late, my experience has been you want to call up that bank or that credit card company as soon as you find that out. And in most cases, they will waive that late fee, or they would not send it into the credit bureau as a late payment, as long as it's waived. Most of the time, they will do this for you as a courtesy, but usually only once in every 12 months. So if you ever have a late payment or late fee, you should call them up right away and they would waive that for you because you don't want to have late payments on your credit record because this is going to bring your score down. The other thing is the length of your credit history. As I said, the longer you have your credit history, is the better it's going to help your score. Because all these 5 things that I'm going to mention, these are factor into your score. And each one of them has its own weight and merit, but in general, they're all used. And so you want to make sure you pay attention to all of them. The next one is new accounts or new credit or inquiries. If you have if you open up a new line of credit or a new credit card, that usually gives you it generally reduces your score by a few points, but it's only temporary because the creditors look at this as, you know, you're looking for credit, you want more credit, and it generally is not a good sign when you're applying for too much credit. So usually if you want to apply for credit, you want to make sure you don't do it too often. You know, once every 6 months or 3 times a year is good, but not like every month, because it really is going to make, you know, look very negatively on your report, and it's going to bring your score down. And the last one is a credit mix. You want to have a good mix of credits and different types of credits, such as if you have a mortgage, you have credit card, you have loans, you have student loans. Now, all credit is not the same, and all credit is not equal. So there's some types of credit which are good and some are bad. Credit cards are usually a negative type, a bad type of credit, because it's what we call revolving credit, and it usually doesn't help your score much, except if you pay your account off in full, like every month. But as long as you have that revolving credit going, it generally doesn't bring your score down very much. The others, such as a loan or mortgage, these are long-term credits generally, and they usually help your score, so you can increase your score if you have a good mix of these in your credit profile. And then as we talk about a credit report, well, question, how do you get your credit report? Well, everyone is entitled to one free credit report every year, and that's from all three credit bureaus. So you can get it from Equifax, from Experian, and from TransUnion. And the website to go to is annualcreditreport.com. www.annualcreditreport.com. Once you go there, you have the option to get one report or all three reports, or you can do two reports, but you can get all three of them once in any calendar, in any 12 months. So if you want to get one now, you can get another one 3 months from now, and another one another 3 or 6 months from now. They all have their own 12-month cycle, so you don't have to get all of them at once. Sometimes it's good to get all of them because you'll see how they compare, but you don't have to. And then the other things that affect your score would be things like what we call public records. And these are the worst type of things that you can have on your credit report. These are things such as bankruptcies, tax lien, or judgments, court judgments. Um, so these you definitely want to make sure if you have them, you want to make sure you get them removed. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Then the other categories we call derogatory accounts. These are like charge-off accounts or accounts that are sent to for collections. Of course, accounts that are not paid. And then the third type, which is the least, the one that affects the account least, would be unsatisfactory accounts. And these are just accounts that are usually late. Um, so these are generally, as I said, if you know it's late and you take action right away, you can get that corrected easily. And then that would not have a negative impact on your score. You obviously don't want to have too many of these because, as I said, most companies would only give you a courtesy waive once in every 12 months. Now, and there's something I want to talk to you about, which is called credit utilization. Now, credit utilization is really the amount of credit that you are using in comparison to the amount of credit that's available to you. So let's say you have 10 credit cards, for instance, and they each have a limit of 10,000. That means you have 100,000 available credit. But the utilization is how much of that 100,000 you're using. So you want to make sure that your utilization remains as low as possible. Generally, 5% or lower is good. Now that sounds really low because why would you have 100,000 and only use 5%? Well, That is why sometimes if you have a lot of cards, it's good to sort of spread out your balances on different cards and you keep all of them low. This way, this is one of the better ways to raise your score, because if you have a low utilization, creditors look at you, well, you're favorable creditor. You don't want to, I don't think you're going to go out and make a lot of large purchases and not pay, especially if you have a good payment history. So your utilization is usually a good thing for companies to look at, and they would all even sometimes offer you additional credit when you have a low utilization. And then in terms of how credit works, there are three acts that really benefit you as a consumer when it comes to dealing with creditors, collection agencies, and credit bureaus. And these are the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and the Fair Credit Billing Act. Now, all of these acts are there to protect you as the consumer. And if you have what I was saying earlier, if you have any of these derogatory remarks in your credit report, you can actually, and this would be the recommended way, you can call the credit bureau and find out. Once you get your credit report, you can go through it and you'll see anything on there that's derogatory. You might have a red mark on it, or a red X, or if you print it in color, or you may see bullet points there and it explains and tell you why certain things are on there. You want to make sure you get as many of those things cleaned up as possible. In some cases, all it takes is a phone call. If your name is spelled incorrectly, if you have multiple, I've seen certain middle names on there twice, or different initials. All of these are errors in your credit report. And the more of them that you can get cleaned up, the better it will be for you to increase your score. Most of the times you can call your the credit bureau, whichever one the report is on, whichever report that you have and the mark is on, you can call them and they would work with you to get these things removed. But usually a better tactic would be to write them, and all of their addresses you can easily find on their website, and they're basically all the same: Experian.com, TransUnion.com, and Equifax.com. You can get their phone numbers. You can get their mailing addresses there. I have them here, but I wanted to do a presentation tonight, but I wasn't able to get that done. So I'm just kind of giving you everything audibly. So, but if you write to them, if there's a mark on your credit report and you write to them, in most cases, you can get that removed, because as I said, these laws that I just mentioned, the fair debt, fair credit, and fair credit billing, the laws are really written in favor of the consumer. And in most cases, you can, if the credit bureau tell you something's on there, a lot of times they don't have the proof that it's there because they don't keep the records for very long. And if you ask them, for instance, to show you the proof, I have a whole stack of letters that I have used to send to these credit bureaus and get stuff removed from my report. A lot of them are very generic, but you can use them if you want to contact me afterwards. I can provide some of these for you. But you can write to these companies and just tell them exactly what they need to do. In most cases, sometimes they give you a pushback, but if you maintain your ground, you can get a lot of these things removed from your report. Even things like if you have a vehicle repossession, if you have bankruptcy, even if you have medical collection, all these things are in report. You can get them removed. Sometimes it's not easy, but again, some of them they'll do it. But rather than going, if you threaten that you're going to get a lawyer to write them, they'll just remove it without, any hassle, because they really don't want to go through all that hassle. And finally, I'm just going to wrap up here by telling you, if you, for instance, have your credit score is not, let's say, up in the high 700s or close to 800, there are things that you can do to actually rebuild your credit. And so one of the things that maybe a lot of people don't use is to first establish an account with a credit union. Generally, they would give you a much better rate when it comes to loans and even credit cards. So always consider using a credit union. And the second thing is if your credit score is really not good and you have even a friend or relative that has a good credit score, you can just ask them to add you as an authorized user. Now they may or may not, depending on how well they know you. But you don't want, if somebody do that for you, you certainly don't want to do anything that would affect them negatively. So if they do that, just by adding you on there, it will help to increase your score. But you don't want to go and for instance, make charges and stuff and things that you can't afford, because then it's going to affect them and their credit score. So you want to be careful if you do that. And really, if someone is helping you out, you want to make sure that you don't do something that's going to affect them negatively. And so that is what I have to share for you regarding credit. I know there's a lot of information. I'm going to pause here for now and see if there are any questions. And then I'll just touch very briefly, if there are no questions, on identity theft and life insurance. So at this point, if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer any of those questions.
I have a question. There are three credit reporting agencies. How
Yes.
so how do they explain the variance of credit scores between the three? I've never understood that.
Okay, so each one of them, they use a different type of scoring method. There's something, for instance, called a Vantage score. And then there is the FICO 8 score. So the way how the score is calculated varies differently from each bureau. It also depends on, as I mentioned earlier, some of them might not necessarily have all of your credit history. So again, that would also affect your score. But the calculations themselves, I don't think it's public information on how it's calculated. Just that it varies differently from each credit bureau. But I'm not aware that that formula is actually public knowledge. I
One
think
more
it's something
question.
that they
One more
guard
question
very secretly.
One more question. Do you know, and this is more of I guess, a cultural, a behind the scenes question that actually affects our community more so. Are there any talks in legislation that you know of, just being in the financial realm, um, for revising the way that credit is calculated, since it just is very wieldy on certain communities? Do you know of anything that it could potentially be happening in the
I
financial
am
community or in
personally
legislation?
I am personally not aware of any, but it's something that may be worth looking into. Um, but personally, I'm not aware of any such legislation in the works or that has been passed that would affect our community
Thank
separately.
you.
Yeah, I have a question, Ted.
I see.
Um,
Go right ahead.
yeah, when I retired, right, I um I decided to pay off all my debts, pay pay off, and I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
have anything. As a matter of fact, I think I kept one credit card, and I thought that was something good. But then I had a problem. I went to get some credit for something, and they said I didn't have credit or whatever. I said, but I don't owe anything. I paid off everything. But to them, that was not a good thing.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
But here's the thing. As I mentioned earlier, you definitely, even if you are a person that uses only cash, my recommendation would be to keep at least one credit card. And if you can keep one that has a very long history, it will be good. The other thing is, as you said, you paid off all your credit cards. A lot of time, what lenders do, once you pay those cards out, if you find you're not using them, they would actually close them. So even though you pay them off, what you wanted to do, what you should have done was to keep a small balance on some of them, not necessarily all of them, but on some of them. And if you want to, you could pay it off, every month. But as long as there's activity on the card, like once in every 3 months, they're not going to close it. But once you start going into 5-6 months and there's no activity, they will realize, oh, you don't need this. Why don't we'll just close it. Sometimes before they close it, they may actually reduce your credit line. So again, that also affects you negatively. Anything else? I see. Renard, were you asking? I see something by your name. Were you asking a question? You're muted.
Ted, this is Clinton. I got a question.
Yes, Clinton, go right ahead.
How you doing?
Good.
You said when you were going through the numbers of the credit scores and you said some number was good, some number was excellent, some was great, and some was excellent. Which was the can you tell me that again?
Sure. So 1 second.
Is it the high?
Below 670 would be fair.
Okay.
Between 670 and 739, that's good.
Okay.
Between 730, 740 and 785, that's very good.
Okay.
And above 785, that's excellent.
Okay. All right. I didn't hear it, so I wanted to hear it again. Thank you.
Yeah.
What I find interesting, and this is I can only speak from my own experience with I had to find all of this out through suffering, for a lack of a better way of putting it. Here I am at 50, 55 years old, and all of a sudden I'm looking at what credit is, and it took me some years, because I'm a little bit older than 55 now, to actually understand the method of using it. I would like to see this information to our youth, so when they get problems I had, once I finally realized what credit was all about, and how the system works. I'm sitting there, at middle age, and I inquired all of this debt, and I was like, wow, what happened? Because I didn't understand how to use cards.
Yeah. Okay, Renard, you were breaking up a little, but I think I got the most of what you said. And this is something that I personally have advocated, and I know others have, that we sort of introduce a lot of this to the schools, because a lot of times credit card companies, they market their cards on college campuses.
Oh yeah.
And they find that that's a very attractive market for them. Kids, school, college kids that want to buy stuff, they'll tell them, oh, you don't have to pay for it. And by the time they finish college, they have $20,000
in debt,
in credit card debt.
Yeah.
So it's something that I personally have advocated for, where we can introduce some type of financial literacy class, maybe at the high school level, certainly before they get to the college level, so that they can really understand how money works, how money affects their lives, and so that they don't think, well, credit is just free money and I can use it. And then when it's time for them to really start building their lives and doing things with their life, they realize they're saddled with a heavy burden of debt. Um, Pam, I see you had raised your hand for a second and you are shaking your head.
Yeah, I did, only in that you actually said it without the credit card companies absolutely do target um the college students. And I think that again, our children in our community are going to be more vulnerable, because if they've gotten to that area after, excuse me, that stage of being in a higher learning program, after probably having to fight very hard to get there, let's face it, they're going to feel like that they've made it. And these card companies really do make them promise them things that they can't. That to your point, money is free. So I feel like literacy and cautionary tales is really important for our young people, especially those that make it to a secondary education level.
Yep, certainly agree. Any other question? Okay, I'll just wrap up now with the other two sections that I mentioned earlier. So in terms of once you have your credit report, and as I say, you can get this from all three credit bureaus. You want to make sure you go through that with a fine-tooth comb, and whatever on there is not correct, you want to make sure you contact that bureau. If you can provide a proof, if there's a debt on there that's not yours, you let them know. They have to take it off. Because if you ask them for the proof and they can't produce it, then they have to take it off. Usually they have 30 to 60 days and they have to remove it. As I said before, the laws that I mentioned, those fair credit laws, they're all in favor of the consumer. And if you just happen to mention about the law and they know that you are educated, they would definitely work with you to get. The problem with most people why they have law schools, but they never take the action to do these things. And so the credit bureaus, they basically get away with murder because, they saddled us with all these type of burdens on our credit report. And, we never take action to really attack, confront them so that they can remove these things. So if you do have any of these derogatory remarks in your credit report, you certainly want to make sure you sign up with either one of the major credit bureaus, or there are other companies that offer credit monitoring services. And these companies, what they do is, like, every time your credit report is pulled, or if somebody attempt to use your social security card illegally or anything like that, you will get notified almost immediately. And so you can take action. You can call the bank, if it is a bank, call the company, let them know, well, you didn't use your credit card or you didn't do anything, and they would look into it right away. And this way you can make sure that you have nobody's using your credit illegally. There's no identity theft or anything like that. You definitely want to do that. And all of the credit bureaus do offer that service, as well as other companies. There's another company I've used them before, called Legal Shield, and they have very inexpensive, but they do credit monitoring as well. Um, as I said, a very reduced cost. Um, so those are steps that you want to take to make sure that your credit report is in good tact, and you want to bring your score up as high as possible. When you have a high score, there's a lot you can do. One, if you apply for a loan, you'll generally get a much lower interest rate. Um, and in some cases, depending on what, it doesn't happen as much in New York, but I know in other states, even to rent an apartment, they look at your credit score. So the higher your score, the more favorable you're treated in many, many ways. In terms of your insurance, your auto insurance, your loans, and as I said, rental apartments. it's all good. So your goal is it should be to have the highest score that you can possibly have. Right now, I am just about 15 points shy of 800, and this is after my credit score was down in the 590s, I believe it was, because I had to do a debt consolidation sometime back because of an unfortunate situation, and I just worked several years to build my score up, and every month it just keep going up, keep going up, keep going up. Right now it's stabled off somewhat, but I'm still trying to do everything in my power to make sure I get to 800, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get there within the next couple of months. And the last thing I wanted to touch base on has to do with life insurance. Now, I am, as I said before, I work for Guardian Life Insurance, so this is not necessarily a sales presentation, but especially in our community, one of the things that a lot of times we lack is to have proper protection for ourselves and our families. And so most of the times, a lot of us don't have that type of coverage. We generally look at life insurance as protection, protection for your income, protection for your family, protection for your assets. So if you currently do not have life insurance, this is something that you might want to look into. Obviously, there are two basic types of insurance. There's whole life insurance and there's term insurance. Most younger people would want to buy term insurance because it's usually much, much cheaper, and you can get it usually because you're in better health at a much cheaper rate. The good thing about term insurance is that although it doesn't last forever, most of the time you can convert it to permanent insurance. And most companies would allow you to convert it at the same rate, at the same rating, I should say, that you would have gotten when you were younger. So, for instance, let's say you're somebody in your early 20s, and each time you apply for insurance, you would get a rating, and you might get a non-smoker, preferred rating, for instance, because you don't smoke, you have no health issues, or even preferred plus, which is like one of the best ratings that you can get. But if you wait, let's say another 10 years, and you never apply then, but you try to apply 10 years later, you might have other issues. Maybe you might start smoking. You might develop diabetes or any other disease, or just the fact that you're older, you get a different rating. So, but if you buy term at an early age, let's say 10 years later, you have that term, even though you're paying not much for it, you'll be able to convert it at that, let's say let's say you're 25, and then 35, which is 10 years later, you want to convert it. You'll still be able to convert it in most cases at that same preferred rate that you got when you bought it at 25. That's a very good thing for which a lot of us don't really think about, but it's something that we really should, because it's a good thing not just for you, but if your family, God forbid, if something were to happen to you, your family is covered. Your family is protected, because that whatever the face value of that policy, that will go to your beneficiary. So as I say, I don't want to make it a sales presentation because that's what I do, but just want to share that information with you that if you do not currently have life insurance, it's something that I would highly recommend. And if you want to talk to me about that afterwards, you're certainly welcome to do so. Now, Sadie, I think that's it for my presentation. It's almost an hour. I didn't realize it was
Okay.
taken this long.
I have an
Tony
insurance,
was,
I have an insurance question right quick. And it's just something that happened to my mom. I don't know what category her insurance fell in, but once she reached a certain age, they told her that she outlived her insurance. Is that how that happened, Pam?
It probably was a term policy, because that's what happened with term
Say it again.
policies. The term policies is only issued for a certain number of years, usually 10, 20, or 30 years. And so, although you don't technically, the policy doesn't actually gets canceled, most of the time it will eventually be canceled because it lapses. And what happens is that once the policy has reached the amount of years in term, whether it's 20 or 30, then the policy premium is going to skyrocket at a rate where you generally cannot afford it at that time. And once you can't afford it, you haven't paid for 3 or 4 months, the insurance company is going to cancel the policy. So it's probably something like that, but not without having all of the details. I can't say for certain.
Yeah, to me, it was just strange that once she had reached a certain age, we were told as her children that, that her cancer, because she outlived her policy.
Yeah. Oh, well, if you want to talk to me about
It
that
was
after,
based
we
on
can
her
certainly
age.
look into it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Renat.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, Renat, I like the name. I had a brother he's deceased now, but he had that name, and you're the only other person I know to have had that name.
Yeah, I don't see so many people with my first name. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
So it is back over to you. Thank you very much. And
okay,
thanks to
everyone.
all
So,
who participated.
no more questions, anyone? No more questions, because I think he did such a splendid job, explaining. Because I know about what your mother's facing, or what, that I knew of a case like that also, that they canceled, you outlive the insurance, and that's something that the insurance companies don't tell you upfront or explain
Yeah.
certain things, so I think they knew what they were doing. And most time when you buy insurance when you're young, you just pay. You don't just think about. Sometimes you don't even read the policy.
Right.
You just know you pay.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what might have happened. I did see a hand. Someone else had their hand up. I don't know. But if there are no other questions, I just want to thank you for that TED Talk. I think it was very exciting. It was very interesting. And I will call you. I'll have you come to talk to my group at another time, Ted, because I think
Yeah.
what you stated tonight was excellent. And our community needs to know some of these things,
Thank
from the
you.
credit to the insurance. We need to know those things. We are not educated accordingly. And that's why we struggle
We
so
got to
much.
start at the younger youth. That's how
We
it
have
gets,
to.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's how it
we
gets.
have to.
Yeah, we have to
Yes,
start at the youth.
yes. This should be taught in schools, and they don't, So, and you have people who are middle age and still don't understand insurance, So they should be told, and I have a group, and sometimes I do have different presentations. Well, now with the COVID, we are locked down, but as soon as we open up again, I think this is something that we should really present to our membership. So thanks again,
You're welcome.
Ted. I really do appreciate it, and I hope we all learned something. So if there are no, oh my goodness, we are on for an hour. Okay, so I didn't realize it. Yes, so that's the end of our meeting. If no one else has questions, and and we in the chat we are seeing things coming up, Ted.
I'm just going to look at it now. I see
Yes. So look, yes.
Pam. Thank you, Pam, for that comment.
Yes. Okay. So we appreciate, and if we have no more
Marlene, thank you as
questions,
well, Marlene.
yes, thank you. Anyone else? If there are no more questions, this is going to be the end of our meeting. So I will, no more questions, no more questions. This is the end of our meeting, and I will report to the chairperson that we had a very exciting and interesting meeting. And you all didn't throw me out. So I think maybe I did a good job.
You did.
I'm
You
giving
did a
credit to
great job,
myself.
Sadie.
Yeah, I'm taking credit. But like I said, it's been very exciting, and I know we'll need to speak with you some more, Ted. So thanks again. And oh, thank you, Miss Marlene. Thank you for saying thanks to Miss Sadie. Okay. You know,
Doc- Dr.
Marlene,
Burke has his hand up.
I'm patting my back. I'm patting my back.
Sadie,
So
Dr. Burke has his hand up.
oh, Dr. Burr.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Well, since you did such a great job, you're more than welcome to chair the general board meeting, Miss
Oh,
Sadie. Just so you know
no,
that.
no, you don't. No, you're not going to do that. But yeah, I did enjoy it because all the folks online were so
No, I'm saying
gracious.
it's an open invitation to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. No.
All right, great meeting. Take care, Miss Sadie.
Yes. Okay.
Take
So
care, Dr. Burke.
okay.
Take care,
So
everybody.
thanks
Great
everyone.
presentation,
So
Ted.
we're signing
Thank
off.
you.
So
Good night.
yes. So we
Good night. Thank you
a
for the
motion.
invite.
So a motion to close, so we'll make a motion so we know we did the right thing, so we,
We have
So move.
from the
yes,
committee.
okay, all right. So thank you. And that was Dr. Burke, and who was,
Yeah,
and
that was
Ted.
me.
Yes, okay. So I can report to Ms. Clark that we did things correctly.
Well, you need a second though.
Yes, I thought Ted had,
No, but I'm not on the committee.
oh,
You're not on the
you're
committee.
not on the
So
okay,
is
well,
Carmen on? Is Carmen?
Carmen, Marlene
Yeah.
is on.
I'd second.
Marlene seconded.
Okay,
Carmen
so,
seconds.
okay, all right. So we
So we
have,
got 3.
yes, okay. So we did well. Okay, so good night, everyone. Enjoy your evening, the rest of the
All right.
good
Good
night.
For the
night.
invite.
Very
Right?
good,
And
Miss Sadie.
I'll stop
Very
the
good.
recording right
Yes,
now.
yes.
Bye bye, Miss Sadie.
Good night, my
Good
love.
night.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Yeah. So you can stop. Yes. Mhm.
I just stopped it, so I'm
Okay,
closing
very
out.
good.
Good night, Sadie. Good night, Carmen.
Good
And
night, love. Good night, everyone.
bye.
Okay. See you.